Hey guys, Cammie here, and Gran Turismo has updated their penalty system. Although all it says is the penalty judgment algorithm in regards to light contact and collisions between cars during online races has been adjusted. So what that means, don't know. This was one of the daily races last week. I'm sure you're all familiar with it, the Super Formula at Spa, and what an absolute crap show it was. Really think that Super Formula should have rolling starts. One guy ahead of me there, Mazu, he's got a 12-second penalty already. Raja there, 1 second as he just pushes Mazu well out the way. Some Irish driver there, 4 seconds, and look at the amount of red tags above people's names. It's ridiculous. You have the slightest bit of contact and you get a penalty. If you're forced off the track by another driver, you get penalised for going off the track. It's a shit show, to be honest. And some of the best drivers of Gran Turismo Sport, such as Mikhail and Adam Suswillo, they've had some of their manufacturers and Nations Cup races absolutely ruined by the ridiculous penalty systems. Saw a clip from Adam Suswillo, as you know, a Williams driver, and he went in the pits, came out the pits, and he had a 10-second penalty, which just absolutely spoiled his race. In a manufacturer's race I had, a car had ghosted out, and as my car went through it, the front of my car was already going through the back of their car when it sort of retroactively stopped ghosting and then registered the impact, and I was hit with a 4-second penalty because the game deemed that I had deliberately struck the car in front. Really ridiculous. Heading through Blanchimont now. That is a corner name I do know without having to look it up, and so many penalties ahead of us as I leave my braking a tad too late, and Flying Icarus with a little argy-bargy is able to nip his way through and take 7th position off me. So we've managed to keep our nose clean. Flying Icarus has come up from, I think he started right at the back, and he's having a really good race of it. I started 15th. Flying Icarus, I believe, started 20th. As we'll skip ahead now, the slipstream is really strong, and that's another problem with Gran Turismo. The sort of ludicrous strength of slipstream. Not so much an issue in the race, but in qualifying you just get people bunching up because nobody wants to be the first one, and then you get sort of the whole issue that Formula 1 had at Monza, where they all bunched up, they all waited, and then nobody got a flying lap in the end. Except with Gran Turismo, you get the whole stupid thing of the cars ghosting out, and then if they stop ghosting out just as your car's approaching it, you know, you'll smack it, you'll get hit with a penalty, and then that's your qualifying over. So I've just picked up a half-second penalty for running over the AstroTurf. We skip forward a couple of laps, and 2 guys ahead get wheel-to-wheel action, and bang, 4-second penalty for the Swiss Golfi driver. So I mean, you can't have a wheel-to-wheel battle with anybody now, because as soon as you make contact, no matter how light, like look, both cars are still on the track, neither of them went off the track, but 4-second penalty. You can't have close racing in Gran Turismo anymore, and I'm seeing more and more drivers saying, I'm not sure they're pushing for a boycott, but they're certainly saying, look, Assetto Corsa Competizione is coming out soon, let's just move to that. And yes, the car ahead is branded with Corona, the beer. Yes, that's humorous with recent events going on. And because of how liberally Gran Turismo is handing out these penalties, it's making me nervous to sort of go for an overtake on Schlesser, because all it takes is for our wheels to just knock into each other lightly, as Formula 1 cars sometimes do on tight corners, and I'll pick up a penalty. But I go for it, I brake late, I manage to stay on the track through the bus stop, but this car just doesn't want to turn. Like, I was using an F1 car on Assetto Corsa, and like mechanical grip, I could just turn the car much more easily. So we skip forward a lap, and we get to the Kemmel Straight, where it's like one of the only places I feel confident to actually make an overtaking manoeuvre. But thankfully Schlesser-Fan 74, clean driver, thinks ahead, you know, he brakes early to try and get the switch back, which is like the professional thing to do, which a lot of drivers don't. A lot of drivers on Gran Turismo Sport have realised if somebody's overtaking you, you just need to turn into them, and you can get them a penalty sometimes just by sort of working the broken penalty system. But thankfully Schlesser's a clean driver, and I begin to pull away from him. Forward onto lap 6, and Frankie, he loses the back end on that bit of AstroTurf coming out of, I think it's Jackie X corner. It was Charlie Martin who was telling me it's either Jackie X corner or No Name corner. But that puts us up into the podium positions. I don't think Frankie was running any traction control. On Super Formula, just on these daily races, I tend to have traction control just set to 1, because coming out of some of these slower corners, it is really easy to just light up the rears and go into a spin. And with the poor results I've had through Super Formula, through impacts and penalties and sort of general accidents that weren't my own fault, I'm not in the mood to put the car into the wall by wheel spin. See, we've pulled out quite a distance from Schlesser-Fan. He really was holding us up, but sort of run out of time now, I think, to catch Lupio, Ale and Flying Icarus. What I really would prefer, I know it's not the way Super Formula works, but in Gran Turismo, if we had rolling starts, we wouldn't all get piled up in the first corner. And especially with Super Formula cars, I know people get off the line differently. Some will wheel spin, some won't, some will keep their traction control off, some will turn it on, then turn it off. But with a standing start, so many people put a good qualifying lap in and would start at the front, only be taken out at La Source, and it's absolutely effing pointless. So many people I know had their driver ratings knocked down a ton, and when your safety rating is brought down, then your driver rating starts to come down. My safety rating went down to B grade, or 50%, because after being knocked off the track twice, I quit out the race. And yeah, it heavily penalised me, which then affected my next manufacturer's round. It put me with drivers of sort of C grade, B grade, of varying safety ratings. Completely messed that up. What I'm going to do for my next video, I'll share a Formula 3 race that I had in iRacing, and you'll really see the difference in driving behaviour and sportsmanship between Gran Turismo Sport and iRacing. So, thanks for listening, and I hope to see you guys on the tracks.